Welcome to the special edition, the special live edition of Under Two Capes. I'm Jared. I'm here with Nerdette. What's up?
Hello, Jared. How are you?
I'm doing very well, just getting over a cold. Of course. So,
Oh no.
I know, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. So, I'm like Wolverine. I heal really fast. So, we are debating, or just really more accurately having a conversation. Are comics woke? Yes, we're going there. Yeah, here we go. All right. So here's the thing. I think it's important before we start this conversation to define what woke is, because I think that the term has lost all meaning in recent excuse me, has lost all meaning in recent discourse. So I'll ask you, Nerdette, how do you define woke?
It's a indefinable word.
True. To a certain degree, yeah. Me personally, I define it as taking your own politics, putting it on a character that the politics are wholly incompatible with, and then attacking your audience for not liking it. That's just kind of the way I saw that's just kind of the way I see it, and that's what I think is the severe problem in the comic book industry
There
is
we go.
that does happen a lot.
Okay, can you repeat what you said? I am so sorry. My internet went out.
Oh, it's okay. So my definition of wokeness is taking your own personal politics, forcing them on the character that you're writing, a character that those politics would be wholly incompatible with, and then attacking the audience because they have an issue with that. Can you still hear me? Technical difficulties, folks, but we're working through that. We're working through that. And Draga, remember it's 10:30 a.m. for me. And this was so I could hang out with Nerdette. So here you go. I did this for you, Nerdette. So Brown Destroyer says wokeness is an ever-changing goalpost, shifting religion where worshipers blindly follow whatever the cult leaders are telling them. By Tristen, if you are talking, I think you're muted or I can't hear you. Solid definition usage of the word. Yeah, because when you think about it like that, yeah, it is a problem in the modern comic book industry, because she'll be back, because the issue is that the modern industry takes activists and puts them in charge of these characters, which let me be clear. I get that you're going to put personal politics into a book. That's just going to happen because, I mean, it's you writing the characters. At some point, that's going to seep in. But the way they did it in the past was much better when they said, hey, listen, here's the issue. Here's both sides of the issue. You make your own decisions. In other words, back in the day, I even say back in the day, as in pre 2016, it was mostly, it was essentially, we're going to give you both sides of the issue. You make your own decisions. We're not going to tell you how to think. And I think that's the difference, because a lot of people say comics have always been political. Comics have always been woke. Okay, that's true, but the issue is that the way they were political has changed and is a problem, because back then you could disagree without being called comicsgate or anything like that. It's really annoying. So let's see what we got here. Taladia or early bird Jared. Yes, exactly. And yes, Tristen will hopefully be back. Excuse me, people. I don't know why I keep coughing, but that's just the fun of YouTube. Drop in the comments real quick how drop in the chat how you guys define wokeness. It also depends on the social media algorithms manipulation, as far as all that, yes. And this is why what was wokeism in 2010 has changed completely different. Yeah, woke people themselves clearly have no understanding of what is wokeness 100%. and why it's changing constantly. Yeah. Those who question this are now non-woke people and now former Democrats and Republican voters on YouTube channels. Yeah. It was me, Barry. Yeah, of course, here, Bard. We got you. We got you. So, yeah. So drop in the comments how you guys define wokeism, and we'll talk about that. I'm just doing this real quick. And she's back.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
It's all good. Don't worry about it. And I lost you again, apparently. I lost audio again. Technical difficulties, folks, but this is the fun part about going live.
I am so sorry.
It's
my
all good.
freaking the cat went over and hit the internet, and it's very, very touchy. I got it right. I'm hoping it stays. I am so sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. So as I was telling the fine people watching at home, so I think, see, the thing about the argument that comics have always been woke is that, yeah, they've always been political. I acknowledge that. The issue is the way they've been political, because back in the day, and I say back in the day as in like pre-2016 or like pre somewhere there, it was more like, here's the issue, here's both sides of the issue, you make your own choices, like Civil War, injustice to a degree. Nowadays, it's like, no, here's how you're supposed to think about the issue.
I would argue that's pretty rare. Mm-hmm. And when it does happen, it's way overblown. I would also argue that most comics are...
I think I just lost you again. Don't worry about it, everyone. That's the part of those. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? You kind of went in now.
I know, and I'm watching because it flashes blue when my internet's good and red when it's not, and it just keeps going back and forth. I am so freaking sorry.
Don't worry about it.
But I would argue that most of it is overblown. Most of it is taken out of context. Like, there's a panel floating around right now.
Oh boy, what now?
And it's a Marvel comic, so I don't know, but when you read it in full context, they're actually making fun of this woke person in the book, and everybody's taking it out of context, going, look, it's this girl lecturing, I think it's The Thing, and I could be wrong. But then you have stuff that's super cringe, like the Gwenpool stuff.
Yeah.
Oh God, what? But all in all, I don't think comics there's this woke agenda going on in comics. They're not trying to queer your kids. They're not trying to take over the world in some like LGBTQ mafia. It's just comics. Comics have always been relatively political. What shifted for the most part is Overton's window.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay. So a couple of things. So there are some things that are overblown as not woke, but like coming out the wrong time. Like that Joker panel that you and I talked about, where was the Joker getting pregnant? I get it that Silver Age, but it came out at the wrong time. That's misinterpreted. So
when you look for politics in something, you're going to find it in everything. And that's what these people do. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. But it's like, the thing about it is, I mean, the problem is that it's also, to a certain degree, like marketing by the companies, because they know that they're having like issues with connecting to people. And so they have to do these, like, I call it like outrage marketing in order to get people to buy the books. But unfortunately, here's the thing. They're outraging or like they're marketing to people that historically don't buy the books. That's the issue here. That's why you could kind of say sales are kind of like slipping a little bit, because it's like they have politics in comics isn't woke. Hack partisan politics is woke. That's a good definition, Dave, and she'll be back. It's that essentially, yeah, advancing only one side of the issue and just saying, here's the side, here's what you have to do. And yes, to a certain degree, it is rare, but it's in the books that DC puts the most attention into, like Superman with John Kent, with Batman to a certain degree, with that. Granted, it was one panel of like Batman avoiding a riot because he goes, "Oh, that store has insurance." Essentially, that's the way at least I see it. Which, and to a degree, I'm fine with having politics in the book. It's just you can't have it where your side is the only right side. That is the issue there. If you don't have, if you essentially, the way you're supposed to have it is, again, here's the issue, here's both sides, pick a side, you decide. Heck, the entire marketing for the Civil War comic was, whose side are you on? And they made it out like both sides ideologically were right. In execution-wise, no, they were not. Same thing to a certain degree in Injustice. And she's back.
I am so sorry to your audience. I apologize, everyone. I have not had this much trouble in a very long time. I went and I tried to tighten the cords and make sure it was okay. So hopefully that works. I apologize, though.
So good. So I was bringing up that, yeah, I mean, you could argue it's a little overblown, but here's the problem. They do it in the books that get the most attention and that get the most, like, attention, like Superman with John Kent, Batman with that image of.
Wait, what's wrong with Superman with John Kent?
No, I mean, because the John Kent book, the old book, the one that got all the media attention when he came out, got a lot of heat for being too overly political.
But it wasn't overly political once you read it.
True, but here's the issue, though. When you have, like, okay, so that may be true. But let me put it this way: it was boring, but even if it was, the problem is the covers and the outward appearance of the book seemed overly political, with him like protesting climate change when there's a monster attacking. Now, granted, that's just a cover. I get that, but
Right.
when your cover is that, it discourages people from actually reading the book and makes them think, okay, that is a political book. I'm not going to read this.
Some of the best books out there are political. What you're saying is it discourages right-wing readers.
Yes, exactly. And to a certain degree, that happens all the time. Because, because here's the thing. We don't want to read books and feel like we're a-holes if we don't agree with what's being said in the book, which, hey, I think that's a pretty reasonable concern.
Oh, for sure. And I don't disagree with you. But the thing is if you actually, not you, the audience in general, the people upset, actually took the chance to read that book, you would have realized it is not very political. It is, there was there was no more politics in that book than there is in a typical Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman book. It was simply an exploration of identity and learning what it was like for John Kent to be a hero as compared to his father and how they were different. Okay, that sounds like a pretty good story. The other I can pitch with the best of them. Well, of course. The problem with that book specifically is that it took too long to get to the point. That's the one issue. But it's like, I understand that. It was very much so like a I would compare it more to a like manga than I would an American action comic book.
Yeah, which you're an American action book. You can't really be like on the thing. But the other issue is that see, the thing about it now. Yes, I'm trying to think about how properly to phrase this, but but again, with the amount of, so the thing is that yes, 100%. If you just read the book, a lot of the times, if you just read the books, yeah, some of it is overblown. I'm willing to compromise on that. But the issue is when the outward appearance of the book appears political, and you only have like a small like budget that you can devote to comics, you're gonna pass up on that because you're like, okay, it looks political. I don't have the funds to pick that up in addition to all my other stuff.
Okay, but here's the thing. The reason I disagree with you there is because some of the best stories in comics right now are uber political. Have you ever read Saga?
No, I haven't. I want to.
It is a great story, and it has a planet literally called Abortion Planet.
Oh boy.
Yeah. It is one of these sci-fi amazing stories that take politics and make it so outlandish that it makes it fun. There's also stories like Recount, which is more along like the assassination of presidents line, like, or if you even take a look at some of Tinian's stuff, the Department of Truth. The difference is I think in what you enjoy, right? We all have different perspectives on how we go at comics. We all take a little bit away from them differently. I enjoy mobster stories, but I also enjoy political stories. Like recently, John Ridley did a book called The Blue Wall for DC.
Mm-hmm. I haven't watched it yet. I haven't checked that.
Holy crap. If you want to read one story by John Ridley that is good, because other than this, it really doesn't exist.
Yeah, I know. I was about to say, I have my problems with that dude's writing.
It's really, really good. So I do think it comes down to consumer.
True, 100% that is true. The other thing it comes down to is that a lot of these writers, they put the politics in. Yeah, 100%. They put it in, but they put it too in your face and too close to the headlines where, okay, so here's an example. I was thinking about this last night. If I wanted to do a police brutality story, but I didn't want to like turn off people, what I would do is essentially do a story where like a couple of Green Lanterns, because it's supposed to be the police force of the galaxy, are essentially abusing someone, and Jon Stewart or any of the good Green Lanterns have to investigate it. There you go. See what you have to do, and this is why the X-Men did it so well back in the day before the Krakoa age when everyone was on an orgy island. What they need to do is they need to do it because the way the X-Men did it is they made the issue so general, which was like racism and being othered in any way. They made it so general that no matter who you were, you could relate to that issue. You have to make it so it applies to everyone.
When's the last time you loved God, or you read God Love Man Kills?
I haven't read that story.
Oh my God, Jared!
I know.
You have to read this story. Mm-hmm. It is Claremont, and it is exactly opposite of everything you just said.
Well,
it is super heavy-handed about religious zealotry.
Well, that's just being against religious zealotry. That's like everyone's against that to a certain degree. But what
wait. Weren't they mad like 2 months ago that the people in episode 8 of The Last of Us were religious zealots? Like, they look at it as attack on Christianity.
Well, here's the thing, though, Nerdette. Here's the difference between those two. Again, when did God Loves Man Kills come out?
Late 80s? I don't know an exact year.
All right, well, it came out before. It definitely came out before 2016. And here's the thing: 2016 came when 2016 happened. People became so hyper focused on politics that stories that would normally pass off and be like, okay, it's one of those things, all of a sudden became all of a sudden became like outrage inducing.
Right. And a lot of
go ahead.
No, I just mean politics almost became pop culture. Mm-hmm. It became a form of entertainment for a lot of people. And I think it's great. People are into politics and human rights
It
and
should be.
trying to better America. But it also became so widespread that it became almost divisive.
Yeah, and that's my issue when they put politics in a book, because a lot of writers in the modern time of comics treat it like my way is right. If you disagree with me, you're wrong. And I'm like, no one side has the answer to any political issue. Let's face it. No
for
one
sure.
side. No, it's 100% like, even in let's take Injustice, ignoring the whole Superman murdering people.
Okay.
The base issue of that, there are legitimate arguments for both sides. Same with Captain America: Civil War.
Yes, that's a great story.
The thing about exactly. The thing about those two stories is that they leave it up to the audience. Granted, okay, again, ignoring Superman being a despot and killing people, they leave it up to the reader. Where do you stand on this base issue? And there have been people like Comic Story and Comic Explain that have had debates on who's right, Superman or Batman. So,
and here, I think those are two really, really good examples. And Dave's not wrong. Dave's not wrong at all. I'm just giving my outlook on how I see things. But those are two. I do think they made Tony look a little worse in Civil War. I will say that it was definitely heavy. Not heavy, but it was implied that Tony was on the wrong side, right? And when it comes to the Superman and Batman and Injustice, there's enough nuance and gray area that you can understand both sides.
Oh yeah, because to a certain degree, Superman has a legitimate point there, particularly in the DC universe where it's a revolving door of criminals. But it's like, to a certain degree, Batman also has his things. And yes, Civil War did kind of do a lot of character assassinating on Tony Stark. Same thing with Civil War 2 with Captain Marvel. But the base issue was like surveillance, or like essentially like a government overreach. Where do you stand on this? So it's like, it was a little more like, we're not telling you what to think. We're just giving you the issues and asking you to think. In fact, that's what Alan Moore said once. He says, I don't want you to agree with me. I just want you to think about these issues.
Yes. And that's like, perfect. You shouldn't be, there's a lot of time where I don't take my own advice, or I make this mistake too. Telling somebody they're wrong only turns them away. Right?
Oh yeah.
Like, you don't want to hear you do this bad, or you do that bad, or you think bad, or the way you act, or your moral ambiguity is bad. You want to learn from your own mistakes, and even through storytelling, that can be done. You can see somebody else making the same mistakes as you and learn from that. And that's where the nuance is lost in some stuff. I think there's more. I think the biggest issue in comics is it woke? I think the biggest issue in comics is they need better talent. Like right now, I'm so frustrated with the Harley Quinn book. Harley Quinn's my favorite character ever. And I can't even read that book. It irritates me.
The thing about it, I think Jim Lee being more in charge of DC did fix that.
That's so stupid. Sorry.
Really?
Yes, he's useless. What has he done for DC?
Remember, he hasn't been in like the full-on in charge before.
Hasn't he been in charge for like 2 years?
No, but now he is the top guy. It's not like there's someone above him. He's the top guy at DC now, so he has more authority to do more, to get more stuff done.
So, do you think that is going to... Do you think he's going to do something with that newfound power?
I think he's going to start getting back a lot of the talent that like left DC.
God,
yeah,
so.
it is 100% a talent issue. And to harken back to what you said before, Nerdette, the thing about it is, even if let's say that yes, it's only a few books that are woke. The problem is that essentially the creatives have like alienated the audience to the degree where it's perceived that all these books are woke, or essentially the audience is just not willing to give any of these books a chance if they have the perception of wokeness, if that makes sense.
It does, and I think it goes further than that.
Go ahead.
So what I think happens here is fans get so frustrated, the wokeness doesn't affect it. Look at an issue like Wally West. For years, Wally was run into the ground. You had Dan DiDio openly hating on Wally West. He brought a new book out. Well, new writer.
Yeah.
Jeremy Adams killed it every single issue. Every single issue for years. For what, 2 years probably?
About that, yeah.
And the sales still didn't skyrocket. Fans had already been burnt so much that they didn't come back. Now that really, really sucks because Jeremy Adams is great. He does they just had a baby and they named it Wade. There's so much great stuff happening in that book. And a lot of people that read all the books know, but the fact that it's not being talked about, what's being talked about is one stupid panel from June or something of Joker pregnant. You see what I'm saying?
That's why
more people need to talk about the good. And unfortunately, I fall in that trap too. I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah, I know, but I agree with you. But I at least argue that's a trap that the comic book industry has gone into by not editing these books. That's another thing they need. They need way better editors because then the stuff may not show up and they'll go, okay, you have to change this because it's a little heavy-handed.
No, and I agree. And you know what? The book I mentioned earlier, Blue Wall by John Ridley, that is an example of because John Ridley can write. He chooses to use race and I guess more leftist talking points when he doesn't have a good editor. They put a good on editor.
Or have Superman be violated in prison.
Oh, God. Why'd you have to remind me?
Actually, you know what? I have a clip I need to play for that. Why did you say that name?
Oh, my God. But when he has a good editor, that 6-issue miniseries is probably going to be in my top 10 of the entire year. So the good editor can make such a massive difference. That's why they're so important, and they don't seem to be important to DC.
They need to be, because all the great, because again, and Raymond has a good point. The Blue Wall is a good example of good editorial. Yes. By the way, so speaking of editorial, I checked out, because of you, I checked out more of Tom King's writing. Yeah, you're right. He's a better writer than I gave him.
Yes! You need to read Mr. Miracle.
My biggest, hot take is that Heroes in Crisis is actually a decent book if you ignore the Wally West stuff that happened previous to it.
That's fair. I really liked it for about the first, 9 issues, right? So probably about the first 2/3 of it. I liked it a lot, and I was giving it positive reviews, and I was like, oh no, I see where we're going with this. Oh no, Wally West fans, be careful. I see where we're going. I loved the Booster and Harley stuff. There was some great character work in those 9-panel spreads too, but then it just kind of.
The only thing I don't buy is Harley Quinn defeating the Trinity at once. I'm like, no. As much of a Harley Quinn as you can be, she ain't beating the Trinity.
No, absolutely not. Even in her freaking wildest dreams. But no.
Why would Wonder Woman hug Harley Quinn when her gear is within reach?
Yeah. Yeah, that was lazy writing, to be perfectly fair.
Thank you. But see, the thing about Tom King, even if you don't like his writing, he gets the best artists. His books look amazing.
Always beautifully done. You should check out his he just did a 6-issue of Gotham Year One.
Oh, I need to check that out.
Oh my God. It is I'm not even kidding. One of my favorite books of the year so far. So good.
I enjoyed his Batcat series, his Sheriff of Babylon, what I have read so far of his Batman, and Heroes in Crisis.
Really, really talented, but he's got a bad rap, especially for the stuff he did with Jay Lee.
And that was self-inflicted. I mean, I'm not. But that I've sort of cultivated the ability to separate the art from the artist as much as I can. There are some people you just can't do that with, but for him, I'm willing to make that exception because the quality of the product is really good. So
it really is, and it's very interesting. I like sometimes having a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'd call it realistic, but a very, how would I describe? Just, I guess realistic is the best word. Take on these heroes, like with Adam Strange and stuff. Like the idea of being able to sympathize with the hero and also going, maybe you shouldn't have sold your daughter into slavery. Just saying.
Yeah, that may not have been the best choice. But another thing I wanted to bring up is that the movie series that can get political but not woke. There's a difference between the two. Are the Zack Snyder DC movies? You know, I'm going to mention those. Is that to a certain degree? And what's up, Hojo? The issue is, I mean, with Zack, and by the way, it was kind of funny. Zack had this great interview when he was promoting Army of the Dead, where someone asked him, a lot of right-wing and far-right leaning people have found like inspiration from your movies. Doesn't that concern you? He goes, look, I'm a Democrat. And he went through all these issues, and he goes, listen, you can like take whatever you want from my movies. I don't care. I'm just here to make good movies. At that point, I was like, okay, this dude gets it. Because when you watch his DC movies, yes, there are political like undertones of it, but not once did I ever feel like I was an idiot for watching it.
And I mean, maybe for other reasons, but not because of politics.
Thank you.
Sorry,
I love when you sent me that 500 something, and then of course you had to put in a Zack Snyder dig.
I had to.
I know. But regardless of that, I'm just saying in terms of like the politicalness of movies, he really doesn't need to put that in. And that's the other thing. A lot of these writers do that because they're not talented enough to either have the story stand on its own rights, or they're not talented enough to change how they phrase the issue so it's not like you're evil, I'm good.
Right. And here's the thing also, I wouldn't even look at his stuff as overly political. I don't think that that necessarily even was ever anything I ever thought about. Now, quality.
Well, yeah, I know. And we've had that debate. I'm just talking about on the political side, Zack is one of the best.
I don't think he's overly. I've never looked at his stuff and been like, oh, this dude's woke or this dude's right wing. And why would somebody ask him that? What an asinine question.
I know. And the thing about Zack Snyder is he will go out of his way to make sure no matter what you are welcome to watch his movies. And that's why he has such a passionate fan base, because he will never say you can't watch my movies because you're this way. We don't want your business. That's the other thing that's an issue with the comic industry, but that's besides the point. And Robert Willing makes a good point. Jeff Johns, Jeremy Adams, and Joshua Williamson all have one thing in common. They're either politically neutral or they know how to write politics in a story. Yes. Jeff Johns specifically, because again, he wrote police brutality stories, but with Green Lanterns, but it didn't seem like a police brutality story. That's the other thing. You can't, if you're writing a Green Lantern story where you're trying to do police brutality, don't tell me it's a police brutality story, because then I'm going to come in there thinking it's a political book. Let the book come out for a second and then say, okay, this is what I intended with it. Because when you tell the audience ahead of time, you get the people that are like, okay, this is woke. I'm not gonna read this. Or again, you're telling them how to interpret the story. You don't want to do that as a creative. You do not.
Right. and everything. Every time you read something, every person takes away something a little bit differently.
Oh yeah.
And it comes from your life experience, from your personal politics, from all of that. So I don't necessarily look at politics in a story as a bad thing. It all comes down to execution. And that's not really an issue of woke. That's an issue of talent.
Yes. I personally agree with you that it's more of a talent issue, because there have been writers, like Robert said, and Robert, I disagree with you on a lot of stuff, Chiefy Lois Lane, but this I agree with 100%. It's just a matter of of promotion. And then it's like with this one, here's an example of a writer who went from a great writer who kept his politics intact, but then jumped on the bandwagon is Greg Rucka, 100%.
Greg Rucka writes probably my favorite Wonder Woman stuff ever.
Oh, yes. Oh,
he's great.
As a guy that actually reads Wonder Woman, I'm one of the few people that reads Wonder Woman. But
he's great though, isn't he? Like, I know he's a leftist. He's not even just a Democrat. He's a leftist, and the talent's there. That's the difference.
Yeah, and here's the thing: when you read his Wonder Woman, like I started reading his Wonder Woman stuff in Rebirth, and not once did Steve Trevor ever seem useless because of his writing. He was useless because DC doesn't know what to do with that character. I still say, it's kind of funny when I put out the video saying Lois Lane is useless, I got like backlash. But then when I put out the video saying Steve Trevor's useless, zero backlash. Zero.
Oh my God, you need to do one about Mira.
Yeah, but speaking of which, Amber Heard has left the country. But because here's the thing about Steve
that was
Trevor.
My golf clap.
I'll give you a great story for Steve Trevor. Put him, Rick Flag, and a bunch of the other normal soldiers in the DC universe together on a team, have them do military operations so we can see how does the military react to living in a world with superheroes. Here you go. Problem solved.
I would be interested in that. I'm not gonna lie, that sounds like something that would be right up my alley.
It's a military drama in a super. None of these guys have powers. They're just standard armed forces dudes. But they live in a world with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the Justice League, and we see like how does like how these guys that represent real life heroes exist in a world where you have gods essentially.
You could even bring in like Sergeant Rock or Creature Commando. Yeah. Like you could do a lot with that story.
Yes, and they could essentially be like some form of like a non-powered version of the Suicide Squad and not like do this mission or you die. But Robert Williams says, seriously, the fact that Rucka did that turn to a leftist to Lois it tells you he doesn't care about the character and he just wants you to as a mouthpiece. What the hell happened to him? Yeah, exactly. That Lois Lane series. Here's the thing. I went through that Lois Lane series because I wanted to see, okay, so how's that series? He does not make her look good at all. Even
it would have been okay if it wasn't Lois Lane.
Yeah, if it's Batwoman, that would have worked well for that storyline, particularly with like the themes that are brought up in that storyline.
It would have been absolutely perfect. But the fact that 10 years prior, I don't remember when that DC Decisions came out, they confirmed that Lois Lane was a Republican, and then he changed her to a complete leftist 10 years later. Like it was just.
First off, why do I need to know the politics of a comic book character?
It was for an election thing.
I know, but I really think it's just, don't tell me the politics of a character. Just show them voting or something like that. You don't have to tell me which way they align because I don't care. Because we could have that debate on whether Superman's a Republican or Batman's a Republican. It doesn't matter. I'm just like, what does that have to do with the storyline? And that's the other thing. I'm like, this is my issue with a lot of stuff. If it doesn't serve the story, it shouldn't be in the book.
Well, it was about the story. It was DC Decisions. But
I'm just like, this is just stupid.
I get it, but it also is inherently in some of the characters. Look at Oliver Queen.
Well, yeah, some characters they because that serves the story.
Yes,
with him and Hal Jordan in Hard
they're
Traveling
so great
Heroes.
together.
Yeah, I love that. That is so awesome. That's the example of doing politics right in that Hard Traveling Heroes by O'Neill, and because it's like they showed both sides of the issue. They showed the way Green Lantern saw it, and they showed you the way Oliver Queen said, and they gave both equal standing.
And the thing is not only did it serve the story, it fueled the story forward.
Yes. Robert says he made her leftist purely because she's a journalist. He needed her to be leftist to be a good journalist, right? Because only left-leaning people are good journalists.
I would argue that I would prefer a centrist journalist.
Yes, that's the way it should be. I shouldn't know a journalist's politics.
I shouldn't go to your website and you like. I shouldn't be looking up a game review and you preach to me about trans rights, or on the other side, preach to me about how I'm a sinner. Like, just tell me if the game was good or not.
Yeah, exactly. And Jay Heat Blaze says, comics again. I recently collabed on my channel where we came up with some that met fan expectations. I wasn't preachy. Oh yeah, Jay Heat and I are building our own DC universe around what if the new 52 Superman didn't die. It's
Oh,
awesome.
that's cool.
What we did was, okay, so he doesn't die. We keep the pre-Flashpoint Superman in there, and he acts like a mentor to the younger Superman. It would be
Ooh, I like it.
It's just, here's the thing. DC has had this. This is my problem with DC, and this is non-political. They have these story like potentials, and they don't do anything with it. They take the lazy way out. Let's just kill him. How about you have him be, you're saying this is the good Superman, have him mentor the kid instead of blow him up like an idiot. And that way you could have the people that like Superman with Wonder Woman and then the people that like Superman with Lois Lane. You can have both. It's that simple.
That's also a very easy workaround with the Super Son stuff.
Yes, right? Exactly. And plus we also had the idea where, speaking of that, where, all right, so the origin for Donna Troy was that she was the daughter of Superman and Wonder Woman, and then she has to deal with the pressures of being the daughter of like the two greatest superheroes on the planet.
And then again, bringing John into it because that's my MO. They're going through the same thing, right? You could have like a bond in trauma, right? Your exactly. Parents are these amazing people you have to live up to be. How do you live up to that?
And the crux of our story. So Superman does die, but Diana makes a deal with the Greek gods to revive him, and that deal later comes back to bite her in the ass because it always does with the Greek gods. And the Justice League again have to go to war with the Greek gods. And Darkseid, because it's always Darkseid.
Because Darkseid is awesome.
Tristen, oh, yeah,
give it 5 minutes.
We have a joke on the channel that if we say Super Sons 3 times, he appears.
Oh my God. That's hilarious because it's the same thing with my channel too.
It legit happened once. I said Super Sons once. He showed up in the chat right there. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God. That's so funny.
And yes, Darkseid is. No, that's the thing. But so
you know that didn't that start with Tom King, the Darkseid is stuff?
No, that started with Grant Morrison.
Oh, it did start with Grant Morrison.
Tom King took credit for that, but it wasn't his thing. It was that was in Grant Morrison's JLA. I know because I just read Rock of Ages, and in big there's posters all over the walls that say Darkseid is.
Okay, learn something new every day.
He can take credit for Kite Man Hell Yeah, which by the way is awesome. But
yes,
you can't take credit for, you can't say I invented Darkseid is when I can go into that omnibus up there and tell you didn't. Unless your name is Grant Morrison, you didn't.
Yeah. Grant Morrison, did you see that? I know a lot of people don't watch Titans, but did you see that little Grant Morrison cameo?
I did. That was nice.
That was really cool. That was like so classy.
First off, I love Grant Morrison, so
I know.
I like his writing can be a bit much. Final Crisis, but if you read that story, I still don't know what the hell happened in that storyline besides Superman sung Darkseid to death because that works. But it's like in terms of overall quality and telling a long form story, Grant does it really well. And comics like here's a difference in comics years ago to now. Batwoman, written as a superhero that's a lesbian, come to the show that's a super lesbian. Yeah, that's the other thing. That's woke. When you take a particular characteristic of a character and make it all that character is, instead of it's like she just happens to be, but she's Batwoman. She's a member of the Bat family. She's a very prominent member of the Bat family, but she happens to be lesbian.
Okay, so here's the thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
The original, not original, but when they redid the Batwoman stuff with J.H. Williams III, and I believe Greg Rucka. No, I don't remember. Regardless, that Batwoman story was beyond amazing. The artistic style of it, the way that they brought in Alice, the way that they did. She was a hero. she was a hero for everyone. When they brought the show in, I watched the first episode and then her coming out episode. And I was like, I don't recognize this character. This show should be made for me because I love Batwoman. I love the Bat family. I love DC Comics. But if I don't recognize the character, not looks, I don't mean that. I mean like
I'm fine with that.
Traits.
Yeah, exactly.
Then what's the point? You are not Batwoman. You are, I don't know, a lesbian in a dress.
And that's the thing. It's like, that's why I turned off of the original John Kent book because here's the thing. And actually, no, here's a better example of that. Bobby Drake Iceman. When Bendis turned him gay, I still say turned him gay because it's like, what? And because that became all he is instead of like one of the most powerful mutants in Marvel. I'm like, I never see that anymore. And I'm like, dude, Bobby Drake is one of the coolest X-Men characters ever, pun intended, but you completely destroy the character for politics. Thanks a lot. But yet another example when Bendis ruins everything.
Bendis ruins everything. Bobby Drake, as not only was it terrible because the character, it made no sense. It was the fact that Jean told him, like, how do you out somebody? Like, do you realize what okay, if this were real life, they weren't mutants, and one of his like girlfriends, like friend, not girlfriend, but went and told everybody Bobby's gay.
I know, right? I know.
That is single-handedly the best example and will be for the forever example of how not to out somebody in comics.
Oh yeah, because I'm not gay. I'm a straight white male. But I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be the person's decision whether or not they come out, right?
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure that's the way it works, right?
That is absolutely how it works. And he didn't realize the issue. And then his book became, I got to get that Tinder date, got to get that man. Like, it wasn't about saving people anymore.
It literally still is that, Tristen.
It still is. Oh, God.
Here are two gay characters done perfectly. Midnighter and frickin' Apollo. I'm reading The Authority by whichever one the movie's gonna be based on. Those characters are gay. I do not care because guess what? They're badasses.
Oh,
and they do not like make it so they're just gay. They are badasses.
It's probably Warren Ellis run, and it is. Yes. And the funny thing is they still have those like boner jokes in there, right? Those gay jokes in there.
Which is fine. I'm fine with like occasional stuff because they're a couple. You can't take that out. But they do it in such a way that it doesn't overwhelm and it's not the plot of this. It doesn't become what these characters are. That's my issue. That's my issue when a character. Well, first off, that's my issue with a lot of politics. And then the last thing I'm gonna talk about in this episode is when they suddenly change the sexuality of a character. Now, I get that happens in real life, but here's the problem with that. At least from my perspective, writing wise, you can't just change something without setting it up, and that's the issue. Because if you like started a Batman run and like had Tim like obviously you can't go by like interpretation of like him and Connor. If you had like a couple of issues where Tim was like struggling with his identity and then that happened, okay, I could see that. At least I would be more like, okay, that they at least set it up right. And I get that the sudden change happens in real life, but here's the problem: when you're writing, you can't always do it the way real life does it, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Not everything transfers over. And I do think that a lot of times, yes. Oh God, yes. What were they thinking?
Remember that? It was kind of funny. I was reading an older DC Comics before he showed up and that ad came out and I was like, oh.
Yeah. That's terrible. That's terrible. But the fact that, so a lot of people, I'm going to use like Tim Drake as an example. There was a split I noticed, especially in my comment section, that a lot of people saw queer coding in him, and a lot of people never even crossed their mind. So you weren't going to make everyone happy with that, but what you should have done is, I actually will say, I think Megan set up the 3 issues in Urban Legends decently, because it was like, we're going on one date, that's it, it's one date, we don't know what this is, we don't know if we're gay, let's just try it out. But then when it came to her 6-issue mini, it was railroaded and so poorly.
Since you mentioned that writer,
why did you say that name?
Wait, who?
Megan Fitzmartin.
Oh, okay. And a lot of people were like, nope, this is not even the character I remember. You can't change the character just because you change the sexuality. You have to have a decent amount of ebb and flow with traits and with the way they act. And he was gay, and he was a completely different character.
Did you see what DC did on their social media? All right, so what they did is they had this Instagram story that's like outlining, here's who the Bat family are in your friend group. And then when it got to Tim Drake, it's just the gay kid who's always connected to the internet.
What? That's
what he's become. I knew this was going to happen. They only turned him bi, not because they wanted diversity, because they wanted a gay Robin. That's what it is. That's what he became. And that's, as a fan of Tim Drake, that's why I take personal offense to that, because I know what DC does to these characters. They make them the gay this, the black Superman, the black Wonder Woman. By the way, Wonder Woman is an example of when they took a character's origin into account. It's like when Rucka said, I've always considered her to be bisexual. I'm like, okay, when you look at Wonder Woman's origin, that makes sense.
Yes.
So,
and I think that was more accepted too, because it did make sense.
Yeah, it did make sense. She's from an island of only women. But see, here's my thing about that, though, is that the only problem is that he didn't exactly put it in the book per se, like in your face. So the way I see it, she's really not. It's just they sort of assume, because he didn't put it in the book. It was just more like, I've considered her to be this way, and I'm like, that's fine. And I could definitely see that's a valid interpretation of the Wonder Woman character, 100%. Because again, if there's one person that makes sense, it's Wonder Woman.
Absolutely. And I do think that there are, I know a lot of people say create a new character. A lot of times when they create a new character, it doesn't stick. But if they really wanted this, like, I guess, diversity in the Robins, there is a much better way to do this. Not making a queer character, but do you remember Gotham Academy?
Yeah.
Maps.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. And that's the thing. No, it's not. Yes, it is kind of hard to create a new character, but it's not hard to make them stick. You just have to not alienate your audience and not scream in, this is the gay character. This is. Don't tell me this character is for diversity. Just have the character in the book, have a fantastic storyline, and that character will catch on. That's the way this works. These writers act like it's impossible. It's not. Here's how I know it's not impossible. It's been done before with Midnighter, Apollo, Batwoman. It's not impossible at all.
No, and Punchline just stuck pretty well. She's been doing her own little miniseries. Jay Heat mentions Harper Row, another great example.
Yeah, she stuck a Punchline before the comic came out because she had a fantastic design.
Everybody wanted to cosplay it.
Which I gotta say, I have a theory on that. The theory is a lot of people want that character that's supposed to represent Joker's manipulation and the effect it has. And because that Harley Quinn has become like this icon away from the Joker, they can't do that to her again. So they still want that, but still want the Harley Quinn. So that's what Punchline gives. So I'm like, okay, fine. At least DC compromise with us. We'll give you a new character that is that. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll take that.
And to be fair, everybody loves a pretty woman. I seen someone mention a little bit ago that they don't like how a lot of the characters have been
desexualized
in
that's annoying. I've shown you the old Carol Danvers Ms. Marvel look. If you look at 90s Wonder Woman, I'm like,
and it is irritating. Like, And I think I have a reaction to that more than I have even politics, because I'm like, what you're doing is saying that feminine women and femininity
are unattractive.
Absolutely. And that is
Tevia, literally, we said Super Sons like 10 minutes ago and you show up. Nice job, brother. By the way, we love you, Tevia. We're good with that. Oh, yeah. Who said Super Sons? but yes, I 100% agree. And that's the thing, because these they talk about representing your audience. Feminine, very attractive, sexy women exist.
Yes. And it's also an issue, like, because they'll be like, well, this is the interior art. It's a little desexualized. And then they'll put like sexy ass Catwoman on the front.
Oh,
what's the point?
Oh, yeah. And then here's an example, by the way, of politics. Speaking of that, with the interior art and desexualized and stuff. Remember when they actually had like a body positive Amazon?
Oh, in Future State, yeah.
Yeah, that's an example of when it. See, here's the thing. I get what they were going for. It doesn't work, and it comes off as a little tone deaf, because the Amazons are supposed to be this fit warrior race. You can't do that.
It doesn't make sense. I don't care about body positivity. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. That's just me. But in an Amazon race of women that are fighters, that are naturally the most fit,
that are Spartans, it doesn't work.
And then you got some chubba chub. You got some chubba chub on your team. I think she's going to be picked last. I'm just saying. Just saying.
By the way, before here's another example. You know what I think did politics really well? Did gender pop specifically? Grant Morrison and Wonder Woman Earth 1.
That was...
Because he legit said, I don't agree with this. I'm just doing it because it makes sense for the story. And I'm like, oh, I respect that.
Yes. And he was trying to see like the visualization of what Marston would have wanted.
By the
what
way,
a matriarchy would look like.
I watched that movie, Professor Marston and his Wonder Woman. It's actually pretty good.
Is it really? I've been wanting to see it. I should.
It's interesting. They really show you the bondage origins of Wonder Woman. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Okay. I'm a little uncomfortable watching this right now, but I'm like, but
I've been wanting to see it. I just never sit down to watch a movie. But I've heard good things, and it's pretty accurate to my understanding.
It's very accurate. And the thing about it, I'm going to bring up Zack Snyder one more time, because the thing about Zack Snyder is that, yes, he has like attractive women in his movies, like Gal Gadot.
Yes.
100%. She looks and feels like Wonder Woman, but he does it in a way that it doesn't feel like exploitative like Joss Whedon does. He does it in a way where they're naturally beautiful and powerful, where Joss Whedon is like, no, let's have Flash fall into Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that was so disrespectful. All for a laugh. Oh my God, his head fell into her boob. So funny.
Swear, I had to watch Justice League for April Fool's Day, because we were doing this thing where like we all assigned each other like stuff we hate, and we have to positively review it. I had to positively review Justice League.
Oh my God.
And then you know what I did immediately afterwards? I watched the Snyder Cut for the 13th time to wash that out of my head.
Oh my God. I will say though, I was a little disappointed. Like, there's a level of professionalism that you have, and there was this clip going around. I think it was Film Junkie, where somebody said something about Doomsday Clock, and they got all uber like nasty about it because it was Jeff Johns. I'm like, I just don't understand why this is somebody you throw under the bus. You're supposed to be professionals.
Well, here's the thing. Zach did not throw him under the bus. He just said, yeah, probably not. The other guys just dropped the mic and walked away and gave finger. So it wasn't necessarily Zach.
No, it was, I don't know who that guy was, to be honest with you.
Here's the thing, though. Can you blame him after what happened with Justice League? Because separating my fandom from Jeff Johns, a significant portion of that, of what happened with Justice League is due a lot to what happened to Joss Whedon, but to Jeff Johns.
Right, he was sent in there to manage. He was doing his job just like Zack Snyder was doing his job. No, I don't. I understand a little bit of animosity, but I also understand professional courtesy.
Well, he was. He just said, yeah, probably not. I'm not going to adapt that storyline, which is fine.
Right. No, and it wouldn't make sense anyway.
It wouldn't make sense because the Snyder versus an Elseworld story. Why you're going to bring? Well, yeah, so is the Doomsday Clock, but you have to set that up. Like you have to at least have Batman find the button. What?
That's a whole cast of characters you would have to get. It doesn't make sense bringing it in. But I was just like, a little taken back. Like, who was that guy? Why was he so?
He was one of the production designers for Zach.
Ah, okay. All right, that makes sense.
Yeah, all those guys were like, but you know who? You know what's kind of funny? The next day, you know who showed up for the Zack Snyder Justice League panel?
I think Ben Affleck.
Yeah, as soon as Ray Porter, the voice of Darkseid, said the finest Batman, I was like, wait, what? He's here? By the way, did you hear that that Marv Wolfman wants to co-write the Batman movie with Ben Affleck?
That would be amazing.
The creator of Deathstroke.
Yes.
Who doesn't want that?
Everybody should want that. That would be so freaking awesome.
Because to give you guys an idea of what that is, it's basically a live-action movie with Batfleck and Deathstroke. It's a live-action version of that Arkham Origins cutscene. That's what that is. And
yes.
And there you go. 100% on it.
Ben Affleck is a really good Batman too. That team would be wonderful.
Oh my god! And apparently, it's supposed to have Batgirl. We're supposed to get an idea of what happened to Robin, and it's really cool. Affleck is definitely my favorite Batman in terms of like all the ones that have been there. I like Pattinson. I tolerate Bale. What I mean by tolerate, I hate his Bat voice in the second two movies. It's a little too like throat cancery.
Right.
That's what it is. It's just
that's a good way to describe it.
Plus, I hate the suit in 2 and 3. I like the more intimidating suit because I like the suit when the cape can drape around and become a cloak.
Yeah, I get that.
He looks like a Kevin Conroy shadow then. Yeah, he was the goat has spoken. Yes, the goat has spoken. But you know what I did? The best thing to come out of that Snyder Con was Ben Affleck refuted. I mean, not Ben Affleck. Zack Snyder said that Batman and Wonder Woman as a couple wouldn't work. I put that as a video too because he said, "Okay, it's fun to play with, but when you do the math on it, it doesn't work."
Yeah. And I agree. I think it was really weird that he wanted the Amazonians to be from Krypton or something.
No. Okay, so that was misinterpreted. What he actually did was, there was a Kryptonian living amongst the Amazons. That's what that actually was, because we all know that empty casket in Man of Steel, he implied two things. Number one, he implied that could have been a Kryptonian that left and is now among the Amazons, which could be Kara. Now, he also took a little bit of heat from the other comic book crowd when the articles falsely thought that he wanted to make that he made Zeus a Kryptonian. That was a rejected idea. But when you look at it, he wanted to give an origin for the Greek gods and link it to Man of Steel. That actually makes a lot of sense. But that's a debate for another day.
Well, no. Yeah, that was totally different than what I've heard. I guess that does make a little bit more sense now that you explain it.
Yeah, because a lot of articles are making it out like that's canon. What?
Didn't Kara die in the comic?
All we know is that she got off Krypton and then the ship crashed and then a shadowy figure escaped.
Okay. All right. I couldn't remember or not. It's been years.
Yeah, it's fine. I still want that comic for my Snyderverse collection, but that besides the point. All right, I did order the Hot Toy Cyborg, so that is coming to me soon. But and the thing about it is that when I heard him explain, because basically Zeus being Kryptonian actually would sort of make a lot of sense, because his explanation is that the reason why that ship crashed is because Ares made it crash. By implication, Ares is also Kryptonian.
I don't like it.
Which is fine. That's a debate for another day. Trust me, I've had debates with people on that. But if you see an article saying that that's canon, it's not. It's a rejected idea. It's an idea he had that he later threw out.
Right, and everybody has that. every single one of us has come up with an
Every
idea
writer
for
has
a
it.
video and thrown it away or
I
something
treat it
along
as-
that lines.
I treat it as canon because I like it and there's nothing to refute it. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
until I see otherwise, I'll say it's canon because I think that's actually really cool. But still, that's the point. There are a lot of articles going around, and this is my other problem with a lot of anti-Snyder attitude. They legit make up false narratives about Zack and his work, and that pisses me off royally.
I get that. I do. And I've gotten this weird rap that I'm anti-Snyder. I'm really not. I just didn't enjoy his work, and I like his other stuff.
Well,
just not his DC stuff.
You're not necessarily anti-Snyder. You're anti-Warner Brothers handling of the Snyder movies. Because let's face it, a lot of the issues you had were not necessarily Snyder. It's like David Goyer, Chris Terrio, and all that stuff. Because the only movie he actually co-wrote was Zack Snyder's Justice League. The other ones were other writers.
Did he co-write Wonder Woman also?
He was heavily involved in the story.
Okay.
Remember, that was still his version of Wonder Woman.
Right. And that movie is the best superhero movie ever made. Just putting that out there.
That movie blew me away. As a Wonder Woman fan, when I saw that, I was like, that is the greatest thing I've ever seen. You know what sold me on Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman? That scene
Her
in
face. That's what sold me.
That scene that's two things. That scene in BVS where she's dancing with Ben Affleck and she goes, I don't think you've ever known a woman like me. And I'm like, yep, that's Diana. Yeah. And then when she's fighting Doomsday, she gets knocked back and she just smiles. I'm like, yes, 100% nails it. 100% is that.
I want to see, I know they're it seems like at least they're replacing her. I want to see Ana de Armas.
And Ana de Armas said, no, Gal's doing a great job. Keep Gal.
Yeah, I'm more for that. Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that. And that's the and again, say what you want about Zack Snyder's creative decisions. His casting is on point. He cast people that look like the comic book characters,
or made them look better. In the case of Aquaman,
you have any idea how hard that is? Yeah, Aquaman is the one time where you race bent a character and it got better. To the point, they changed the comics. They changed the comics
to suit the movie character. The only one I would say I would be a little, and that's just my personal bias, is Mira.
Oh yeah, and maybe a little bit Barry, but that's just because they had him act like Wally, which that's
Wally.
Like every Flash thing recently. So I'm not exactly holding that against Snyder, but the Flash movie looks really good though.
Oh my God, it looks great, doesn't it?
Again, what they should do, end it where, make it general enough so the universe still exists. So if they wanted to, for some reason, they could come back and end that storyline and then continue with James Gunn's thing, which I still think, I'm 100% sure they're going to end that story in some way. Comics, animation, movies, at some point it will be done, particularly because Zack was being very cryptic at SnyderCon when he goes, someone asked him about like, can you tell us what happened to Robin? And he goes, okay, I'm going to give you a brief explanation because he basically said, I don't want to spoil it. I'm sorry.
Wait, what?
Okay, so what happens is that someone asked him, how did Robin die? Because that's why Batfleck became so brutal. So he goes, okay, I'm going to give you a sort of shortened version because I still think that'll be a great thing to see in the near future. And then that thing was echoed by the moderator. And then he ended it again with, I don't want to say anything that could possibly be a spoiler for something that might come out in the future. So I'm like, something is happening.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see, I think they're really... I mean, not everything, but there has been a lot of really good with their animation. Super Sons was so good. Why not go that route? It would make sense.
If it's animated, make it animated like Love, Death, and Robots, that 3D animation. That
would be so cool.
Real. Like,
that would be very cool.
That looks real. I got confused in the Michael B. Jordan one. I thought that was live action. I was like, I thought this was supposed to be animated. Then when I see it, I'm like, how did you do that? How?
You question your own sanity looking at that shit sometimes.
Yeah, and by the way, Henry specifically, because the backlash was insane when he said, "Okay, Henry Cavill's not going to come back as Superman." And everyone's like, "But you had him, and now, but Not you. Warner Brothers had him announce that he was coming back, which actually, one could argue, opens them up to a false advertising lawsuit.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm saying it's a stretch, but this is just something I'm thinking because they're making the general audience think Henry Cavill's going to be Superman, and then you just pull the rug out from under you. It's just like they shouldn't have made him announce it. Is the big thing.
And I think a little rock had a lot to do with that also.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost I feel bad for everyone involved because I saw a little snippet of an interview of Henry. And he was talking about how he gets to be a positive Superman, an aspirational Superman finally. And then it was taken away, like in an instant.
Was that in Man of Steel, though, at the end? Geez.
We watched different Men of Steel then.
You should talk. You watched it. You watched the short version of BVS and still have an opinion on BVS.
Guilty. Guilty as charged.
As soon as it was, literally watch the ultimate edition. Most of your critiques of BVS from when I debated you are legit, like out the window in that movie.
I didn't do that on purpose. I just didn't realize what version I had.
That's what they gave Lois Lane more of a role. They show you her like solving the mystery of Lex trying to frame Superman. So when you say, not you, but when people say Lois didn't do anything in the Snyderverse, that's because Warner Brothers cut it out. That's why.
Aha. Yeah, and I will say Amy Adams is a pretty girl, but I much prefer. Did you ever watch Smallville?
Yeah, of course I did. Of course
oh my God.
I'm a Superman fan.
That's true. That Lois was so perfect to me, so we were so spoiled from her.
I mean, I liked Amy Adams for who she was. Because this is coming from a guy who generally hates Lois Lane as a character. So
right.
I could be biased. But my favorite Lois Lanes have been Snyderverse because I like what he did with her. The Smallville Lois Lane, the Superman and Lois Lane, because I think she's pretty good, and that's it.
Oh yeah, she is. The other
ones have been really annoying.
The funny thing about the Smallville one is, long time ago I watched a video and they went through and it was like, how many times does Lois Lane get knocked out in this series? And it was hundreds. Like.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
Again, my issue with Lois Lane is that she's constantly, if DC won't kill her, and then they're constantly putting her in danger just so Superman can save her, that gives me no stakes. Guess what? That's crappy writing.
Yeah, for sure.
I got news for you. Unless you give me the death of Lois Lane and Superman does not turn into a despot, because then I'm not going to believe that. But anyway, I think that's a good place to leave. I think we had a good conversation. Again, this is another example of if you have a calm conversation, it doesn't revert to name calling or hostility. Crazy how that works.
That's not me.
Crazy how that works. And
it
again,
is.
That's why I've always been comfortable having these conversations with you, because you know me, you know I'm not an asshole, and I know that you at least treat me with respect when, I was debating Snyderverse stuff. I was a little nervous about that one, but that's besides the point. But where can everyone find you on the tubes?
Well, Nerdette's Newstand or Nerdette's News, both my channels right now. Usually I stream on one and post live stream clips on the other for right now. I haven't quite figured out what to do yet. I'm still in a weird transitionary period, but I did get remonetized on both channels. So I'm trying to, I know, because I tried for 6 months on both channels and all of a sudden back to back, I got them both. So now I got to figure out what to do.
Mm-hmm. You'll figure it out. Now I offered to do a collab series with you. I
know, but all right.
Because you haven't watched the movie in 3 years since it came out.
Since it came out. Since the day it came out.
You admitted that was the one movie you at least enjoyed more. So I'm like, hey, and it's not watching the whole movie in one shot. It's each week we watch a part of it.
A chapter of it. I think that could be really fun.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, it would be with someone that likes Snyder and someone that's indifferent to a lot of Snyder's work.
Yeah, and honestly, I really liked, as much as I don't like Ray Fisher as a person, I loved his parts in this movie.
As soon as I watched this movie, I was like, I see now why you were so pissed off. I at least see you can disagree with how he went.
You can understand
away with it, but I 100% get it because they
absolutely
butchered him. They butchered him.
They made him so insignificant when he had the best role in the movie.
Yeah. Zach said, "I made him the heart of the movie." Cyborg is the heart of a Justice League movie,
and he pulled it off.
And it still works.
Yep,
that scene where he's like, "I'm not broken and I'm not alone," still hits me. So, as far as Comics League, you can follow me at Comics League on YouTube, Comics League JT on Twitter, Comics League on Instagram, and we are going to I'm about to go launch my friend Nick's comic on my channel. And then tomorrow we're talking about Spaceballs on movie night, one of the greatest movies of all time. And essentially, I have a couple of collabs that I have to edit and put out. And essentially, this is going to be a lot of very interesting content. Like on Monday, I may release a video talking about the Jeff Johns diss at SnyderCon because that was glorious.
Oh my God.
Because I'm sorry, you. As much as I'm a fan of your comic writing, you severely mishandled that situation, and you caused a man who just lost his daughter undue distress. Sorry, dude, you're dead to me in terms of in terms of all matter of decor. No, sorry, dude. And in terms, I'll probably be arguing more hot takes about why Tom King is awesome.
That's so great. I'm so glad.
I'm sorry. I read the stuff, detached from all the controversy surrounding him, and I'm like, this isn't bad. Where's the bad stuff?
Exactly.
I was like, I'm reading Heroes in Crisis. I'm like, is something wrong? Because I actually enjoy this, and I'll continue. We will be doing more collabs, probably with Tristen doing our. Okay, so what Tristen and I were talking about real quick, and then I'll end it off is. We were going to do a series where we rewatch the Snyder Cut part by part and discuss it once a week for fun. That's what we're talking about. I still think that would be fun. And I didn't see that they did that. If they did that...
I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. About time. All right, you know what I recently watched is the original Superman movie. It doesn't hold up that well.
1978?
Yeah, because he shows up and everyone automatically trusts him. And
that's
the part where he's running,
but it does hold up. It's amazing.
Well, no, he's running. He jumps in front of a train. I'm acting like a Superman purist in this point, but it's all parody. Let's say the train hit him. Wouldn't that cause a derailment and kill people? He put people on the train at risk. This is how the other people sound to me, by the way. I just wanted to.
No. I get it. I totally get it.
Which it works. I get what they were going for, but when I look back on it, I'm like, yeah, doesn't work. But anyway, Tristen, thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
No problem. I had fun.
And stay heroic, everyone. And I will be sure to see you at whatever next piece of content we have on Comics League. Bye-bye.